Welcome to Hilarity by Default's weekly Brisco County Jr. review, starring the wise chin of Bruce Campbell. Episode 8, Senior Spirit, has Brisco coming head-to-head once again with John Bly, The Orb, and Ghost Dad. Well, at least it's Arlie Ermey and not Bill Cosby. Brisco and Bowler separately set out to retrieve the son of a wealthy tycoon after John Bly kidnaps him to use as a pawn to gain the missing piece of the mystical orb. Aided by the spirit of his deceased father, Brisco learns that there's more at stake than the natural world may imply. This is the Father's Day episode of Brisco County Jr., and at first, it may seem to be a lesson that Brisco is teaching the kid from Full House, but it ends up being about him, and it's very interesting, but also very, very strange. I think for me personally, this is the episode where the orb mythology kind of becomes overwhelming. But I'm going to throw it to you. What did you think of Senior Spirit?
You know, here's the thing. Obviously, some of the elements we like were present. There was some comment in this episode, so that's obviously a good thing. But I think the theme that I keep hitting, and there are times when you part your partner expression right along with me, is stuff that shouldn't work, but somehow does. Right now, if you weren't using somebody as amazing as Arlie Ermey, it probably would flop.
Oh yeah, that would have been completely ridiculous.
Right.
Their chemistry saves that entire subplot.
Right. Because it's him, are you going to question Gunny? I'm not going to question Gunny. Are you going to question Gunny? I don't think so. There's a reason why this is a guy got acting gigs other than being a Gunny. Okay? And I think those were on display in this episode. For me, the highlight was seeing Arlie Ermey, the actor, not the former jarhead.
That's true. I agree with you. The Ghost Dad scenario is something that, on paper, is ridiculous. Hell,
we've seen it fail too, Demos. Let's be clear. In recent cinema, okay, Arlie Ermey has officially outperformed Russell Crowe. So too, actually, has Bruce Campbell outperformed Henry Cavill. I said it.
Well, it's funny. There are other Bruce Campbell properties that have had him getting haunted by the ghost of his father at certain points. I'm not going to mention which show it is. He's started many shows, so I can kind of skirt around that. And it's not done as well as it's done here, purely because of Arlie Ermey. It's kind of a shame that these two have very, very good chemistry. Yeah. They have terrific chemistry, and it's kind of a shame that we don't see as much of it in the series because it crackles. I'm glad that this scenario gave them the opportunity to have scenes together and see them bond as father and son and see a different side of Brisco, which we normally wouldn't see. Even though it takes him to the point where he's learning how to use the Force. We'll get to that in a few moments. Okay, it's been a few moments. What did you think about that development?
You have abilities that you don't even know you have. Have faith in yourself, son, and do it.
So, because your belief has already been suspended by the fact that Brisco Sr. is a thing,
it becomes too Obi-Wan Kenobi at that point.
A little bit. Again, please remember the lead that it's not my favorite episode. Mm-hmm. But while the envelope is pushed a little too far, I'm not prepared to poo-poo the whole episode, right? Like, when this starts happening and you're witnessing what you're witnessing, and they're making puns based on the word spirit with Brisco Sr. talking to Junior, you're expecting a certain suspension of belief. Like, this is not going to end in a conventional method. If you expected one, that's kind of a you problem. But I'm completely cool with saying that was a little much.
Have we found yet another Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade element of a friction between a father and son? One particular father who was too obsessed with his work that took him away from home too much, which forced his son to learn self-reliance?
I never knew you were so mad at me.
Well, I guess I never did either.
It was just the two of us, Dad. It was a lonely way to grow up. For you, too. If you'd been an ordinary average father like the other guys' dads, you'd have understood.
I'm not making excuses, but it wasn't easy raising the boy by myself, especially being on the trail as much as I was. Oh, I suppose there's a lot of things I could have done different, but I did the best I could, son.
Did I ever tell you to eat up, go to bed, wash your ears, do your homework? No, I respected your privacy.
I taught you self-reliance. Yes, no, I think that's a fine parallel. I didn't think of that until you said it right then.
Only instead of the kid getting too close to his dog to the point where he named himself after the dog, here we have a man who speaks too much to his horse.
Hey, but the good news is at least his name isn't Comet County. That'd be a bridge too far.
While we're on the subject, you talking to your horse is getting a little out of hand, too.
Lord Bowler was awesome. He doesn't really do much, but I mean, this man stares down a rattlesnake in a comedic fashion, and I think it's the only time in cinematic history that I bought it. I'm like, yeah, this man can stare down and scare a rattlesnake. I completely buy it.
Yeah, don't come back.
I mean, again, there are comedic elements to the show. So again, if I'm believing Ghost Dad, I'm believing Lord Bowler being that big a badass. Hell, question is asked and answered in previous episodes already. We can move on.
I think the other thing, and this kind of harkening back to the dad interactions, is I love that they bring this linchpin into this episode. The Brisco's fear of cold opening the door to distinguish him from his dad. And that was something that bothered me when I was a kid and I watched the very, very first episode, the pilot episode. Brisco County Sr. was built up as this great lawman, and then he walks in, he just opens the door and just walks in and gets shot. I was like, this is me as a kid. I'm like, he should have known better. He's supposed to be the badass. But I love the way that they play it here.
I'll ask it this way. Did it feel to you like at first Brisco was feeling guilty, but then he was kind of wisdomed, as a verb, into realizing that he'd actually learned a lesson from his dad? Like, did you feel like that happened? Because I did. Oh yeah. That was the whole point. I mean, that was one of the final, if I remember correctly, that was one of the final lines where he said that you were smarter than me. You hesitated. Like, well, and let me build on that too, because I kind of felt like the whole time, no, dummy, you shouldn't have done that. Why are you the a-hole? And then they play back, and granted, in my opinion, like, no offense to 9-year-old you or whatever, but like, when they played it back from the beginning, I was like, this isn't a fair comparison. Like, there's no way Senior knew that room was that filled with armed thugs, so to speak, right? Whereas Brisco had the information, took other information he had in the form of his father's doom, and played a complete equation. Why is he an a-hole? But then again, there's an emotional element there, and that's obviously. I don't want to dissect that scene too much, but at that particular point, when Senior is headed to the back of the train, he's already noticed the paperclip is missing. The plane is getting charged at. He's shooting people down, and he clearly knows that that something's up with Bly. And then he cold opens the door. I don't think it's as lacking as much information as you may think. Right, but I see what you're saying. But again, the cart being that full, we don't have to dwell on it. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to dissect it too much, but I think that Brisco's wisdoming, to coin your phrase here, is he realizes that that moment wasn't weakness in him. It was said wisdom. It wasn't weakness. It was prudence. Yes. I think the biggest downfall with this episode, honestly, is there's too much mythology. I think this is the point for me where the orb stopped being interesting.
That orb thing again, I hate this.
Not that thing again. I knew you were going to bring that up.
Yeah, because I feel it. I'm with him, because I think that in too short of a span, they've covered this too much, and the presentation hasn't been very consistent. It started to develop the X-Files problem, where by halfway through the series, it wasn't just one race of aliens, it was several alien races, that they were at war with each other, and then all of a sudden, we have different syndicates here and there. And then now the orb, there are multiple orbs, and if you pull out the tubes, they do different things. Okay, come on.
Well, I'll put it this way. Like, the orb in and of itself wasn't a good device. We weren't a fan of it. And they just kept building on it. I mean, right? That's the main problem we had with the Defender series. You know, hey, Iron Fist sucked, but unfortunately, and it was the only one that sucked, but unfortunately, the main villain where we combine all the cool heroes, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist, we combine them all based on the Iron Fist villain. Damn it. Right? Same concept here. We have all this cool stuff. We have Lord Bowler. Socrates is coming into his own. Brisco County, always a cool character. The very scrumptious Dixie, whatever her name is. But she
wasn't in this episode.
I know, but still, I just wanted to make the Dixie Cummings joke. Cousins, whatever. But thank you, Demos. But that's all. Exactly right. But that's all destroyed by the fireballs, or by the fireball orb. Okay, so yeah, I mean that's the main problem with it.
What's the matter? Don't you trust me?
You're a kidnapper in the employ of a psychopath.
Good point.
This episode definitely takes certain threads to the next level, specifically the John Bly orb connection, but it does introduce the element of Brisco's dad previously having a connection to the orb himself. That I'm not buying.
I didn't think that much either.
I didn't buy that, and it is something, without getting into specifics, that does carry on, and I don't think it ever landos, to put it in your terms.
Here's what it is, and I'll go ahead and start off the scoring this time, just because I can. And you haven't told me not to. So for this one, I think this is one of those cheese pizza baseline style episodes. The ending needed to be stronger, but it was going to be hokey because it was obviously a dad episode. You needed a "I love you, son," or I'm proud of you, son" moment in there. And it was going to be hokey as hell. And it's going to always be hokey unless it involves a woman for Brisco, because this is that kind of an action adventure machismo kind of show. That's how that's going to work. Unless somehow or another Lord Bowler's mother is on the show and like makes him all softy, that's about the only way it's going to go. But everything else around it worked when it shouldn't have. I'm going to give you precisely 3 comments for this one. It's right where the bar should be set. It's cheese pizza, just like the previous episode we went over.
I think that your analogy for cheese pizza for the previous episode was much better than for this. I think this episode is the episode where you want to experiment and see if having a sausage and onion pizza is a good idea. Because I say this as a guy who doesn't like onions on my pizza, but loves sausage on my pizza. So these are the 2 elements that are play in this episode. The sausage being Arlie Ermey, the ghost dad, and the onion being the entire orb thing, because it's gotten so overwhelming, it's bringing a freaking tear to my eyes. Here's where I stand with this episode. Now, we've already stated before that when we're rating these, we don't want to give halves, because we like Comet too much and we don't particularly want to cut him in half.
Correct.
If I were to truly rate this episode, I'd give it a 2.5.
But you're going to round it down.
No, I'm actually going to round it up. I'm going to round it up to 3.
Arlie Ermey did that much for you.
Actually, specifically because of that. Honestly, specifically because of that. I think that there are definitely a lot of flaws in this episode. Like I said before, I think the orb goes way too far. This is the point where that ceases to become interesting to me. But there are some great action beats, and the engaging heart-to-heart that Brisco has with his dad, that is the episode to me. That is the reason to watch this episode. And every single time that happens, even though it It's kind of ridiculous on surface. I think that the two actors are fantastic together. Lord Bowler, once again, a great example of how to use comic relief without undermining the character. And despite the fact that I think that Brisco's hidden force powers are stupid, I think that Brisco is fine without having supernatural powers. He's fine as it is. The fact that he's aware of the coming thing already gives him an extra sensory prescience that none of the other characters have. He doesn't need anything supernatural to enhance that.
To over-enhance.
Yeah.
I got you.
Although, I did think that him shooting in the dark to save the kid was an awesome moment.
Yeah, that could have been, listen, that could have been done without, use the force, Brisco.
Trust your instincts, Brisco, because the entire thing was him following his instincts about not opening the door. That's all that needed to be said. Trust your instincts.
The trust your instincts thing, or the use your force stuff, like, they could have made that less mystic and still have it, like, if it was Senior in the room, Senior Spectre in the room going, trust your instincts, son, and saying it more harsh than mystical, it would have worked and maybe even better.
I think so. So join us every week as we cover all 27 episodes of the adventures of Brisco County Jr. We invite you to watch along and let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are on each episode, and make sure to like and subscribe for more fun on Hilarity by Default.